When the lights go down, the truth comes out.
Tucker, you are not the father. This has to be wrong!
After Hours with Alex Stein. No filter.
If it was okay to have anal sex.
No apologies.
You were talking about things that probably you shouldn't talk about.
The undisputed king of trolling.
I finally had my own show!
At one point, your ancestors owned slaves.
They tried to cancel us.
Deplatforming works.
He wants to kill babies, but she's still beautiful. Look at that booty on AOC. That's my favorite big booty Latina.
Politics, culture, hypocrisy.
They want them to have their penises cut off.
Uncensored and uncontrolled.
Cut your penis off, Max.
That's what I'm saying. They admit they want to cut people's penises off.
Late night just got dangerous. After Hours with your host, Alex Stein, starts right now.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to After Hours with Alex Stein, right here on Real America's Voice. Now, tonight we got to talk about a subject that is very near and dear to my heart. That is the horrible tragedy of September 11th, 2001, where America was faced with the worst terrorist attack to ever happen in United States history. Now, the reason that I'm going to talk about 9/11 tonight is because I'm starting to see a lot of similarities to what is currently happening with this war in Iran. Now, I know some people are going to get mad, and why are you connecting the two? But I just want to give the official story about 9/11, and then I want to talk about some of the weird coincidences when it comes to the official story. And then I want to play some clips about the Iran war, so I can show you how I think that they both connect. Now, I want to start off with actually type something up tonight. And so I'll be reading this to you. So I apologize if it isn't, as improv. But, the Pimp on a Blimp, we did some pre-production tonight because I want to make sure that this show really comes across as thought-provoking, because really and truly I'm going to say some conspiracies tonight. And to be honest, my goal is not to convince you of any of these conspiracies that I tell you about. My goal is only to encourage you to ask questions when it pertains to the official story of 9/11 and when it pertains to the official story of the war in Iran. So let me just dive in. Consider this. The way many are questioning the rapid justifications, shifting objectives of the Iran war, and the miraculous early successes in the strikes on Iran, these echo the same skepticism that was once aimed at the official story surrounding 9/11. Both involve narratives of overwhelming threats neutralized incredibly fast, with inconvenient details often downplayed or reframed in a way that makes anyone questioning the actions of our government out to be an anti-American traitor for just wanting some more governmental transparency, which is exactly what I thought we all voted for. Tonight, let's walk through the official account of September 11, 2001. The version, we're told, is very straightforward, and there's no need to question it. On the morning of September 11, 2001, 19 men, mostly Saudi nationals, armed with only box cutters, boarded 4 commercial airliners. They were directed by Osama bin Laden, a man on dialysis in a remote Afghan cave, who somehow orchestrated the entire operation using only a satellite phone and a laptop. These individuals overpowered trained crews and professionals on all 4 flights with no effective resistance or timely alerts getting through. Then, despite the world's most advanced air defense system, one that can scramble jets rapidly for even minor issues, had planes that flew off course for over an hour, striking the World Trade Center towers and the Pentagon with remarkable precision. The Twin Towers, built to withstand plane impacts and intense fires, collapsed at nearly free fall speed into their own footprints, something unprecedented for a steel-framed high-rise from fire alone. It's never happened. And a third building, World Trade Center Tower 7, which is 47 stories, was never hit by a plane, dropped symmetrically at free fall acceleration that afternoon, attributed simply to office fires. One hijacker's passport was found intact blocks away in the debris, while the plane's black boxes were either vanished or their data was never fully recovered. Within hours, the FBI identified all 19 hijackers and linked them definitively to Osama bin Laden. The 9/11 Commission, which was underfunded and had conflicts of interest, relied on testimony from tortured detainees, overlooked programs like Able Danger that actually flagged suspects beforehand, and ignored multiple hijacking simulations running that exact same morning. Yes, that's true. And omitted any detailed discussion of World Trade Center Tower 7 and its main findings. That's right, the 9/11 Commission report did not even mention Tower 7. Key evidence disappeared. The World Trade Center steel was shipped overseas before thorough analysis. Pentagon videos were classified or lost. They only gave us 1 or 2 frames of the entire attack. And the related financial investigation files at the Pentagon were completely destroyed. Years later, bin Laden was located and killed in a SEAL raid in Pakistan where no photos released. The body was thrown away in the ocean and flushed down the toilet, with details constantly evolving over time. So that's the official story of 9/11. That a small group of amateurs bypassed global intelligence and defenses, caused 3 total building collapses in ways never seen before, and left just enough traceable evidence to close the case swiftly, while major questions and evidence gaps persist. Now, the reason why I had to read that is because that's the official story. That's not even a conspiracy. And in that, I mentioned, I don't know how clear I was, but that Condoleezza Rice and George Bush were both briefed on the threat of 9/11. That's right. So I actually want to play this clip. It's SOT number 11, actually. And this is Mehdi Hassan talking about how George Bush and Condoleezza Rice were both warned about the chance of a terror attack on American soil.
That we don't tend to talk about what didn't happen before 9/11, the action that wasn't taken to keep us safe, the myriad ways in which the Bush administration totally, shambolically, shamefully dropped the ball on national security, the warnings that weren't heeded, the dots that weren't connected, the threats that simply weren't taken seriously. Some of you, for example, may know about the now notorious Presidential Daily Brief, the PDB from the intelligence community, headlined, "Bin Laden determined to strike in US," that was given to Bush more than a month before September the 11th. This was amid reports of a potential looming terrorist attack, including from al-Qaeda. The PDB mentioned New York as a possible target. It mentioned the possibility of hijacked aircraft. The FBI was already conducting dozens of investigations that were considered bin Laden related. Then there's the story of George Bush getting a PDB on his Texas ranch about threats from al-Qaeda that summer. Bush replied to the CIA analyst explaining the risk, quote, "All right, you've covered your ass now."
So there's been multiple times where George Bush was briefed that a guy by the name of Osama bin Laden had a plan to fly planes into buildings in New York City. And so I'm going to get a little deeper into the conspiracies, but even the official story basically admits that they had prior knowledge of these attacks. Now, I want to play this clip. Actually, I want to play SOT 9, or excuse me, I want to play SOT 10. Now, this is 6 days after the terror attack on 9/11, which George Bush was briefed about multiple times. And I want you to listen to what he has to say, because he basically says, we want to turn this tragedy into something terrific. Let's play it.
Let me say that in terms of foreign policy and in terms of the world, this horrible tragedy has provided us with an interesting opportunity. One of the opportunities is in the Middle East. I'm pleased with the fact that Chairman Arafat and Prime Minister Sharon have taken positive steps toward bringing peace to the region. I think we have an opportunity to refashion the thinking between Pakistan and India. I think there's some interesting opportunities to shake terrorism loose from sponsor states. And this government, working with Congress, are going to seize the moment. Out of our tears, I said, I see opportunity, and I'm going to say, we will seek opportunity, positive developments from this horrible tragedy that has befallen our nation.
And guess what that positive development was? That was trillions of dollars and millions of Muslims dead for weapons of mass destruction that did not exist. That's right. The government not only had prior knowledge of 9/11 and disregarded that threat, but then they went on a campaign to Afghanistan and Iraq and killed Saddam Hussein and tried to kill the Taliban, but ended up losing and in a very embarrassing fashion. So America did take advantage of that, but the only people that benefited was the military-industrial complex, where Dick Cheney had worked for these companies for years and had a lot of connections. So any stockholder that had Raytheon, Halliburton, or Boeing stocks came out of 9/11 with a ton of money in their bank account. But the average American that's not invested in these stocks didn't benefit whatsoever. As a matter of fact, because of it, that's why we have to go through the TSA, and I got to get my junk manhandled by some gargoyle-looking TSA male agent because I don't let the women do it. Trust me, I've tried. I'm always like, let me get one of those big booty Latinas to search me. They don't let me do that. Why? Because of 9/11. So George Bush was briefed and didn't take the threat serious enough, and then the exact plan that he's briefed about happened. So before we even dive deeper into these clips, just think about that. The official story is that he knew. So the only leap that you have to take is a very small leap, is that maybe he knew that there was people planning this attack and he let it happen. That is called a false flag attack, because he knew that he wasn't going to be able to go and destabilize the entire Middle East unless he had something that would motivate the general public to be on board. And at that time, over 80% of the population was in favor of going to the Middle East and starting these wars. Now, the current war in Iran only has a 27% approval rating. That's right. So think about how much more excited the country was for those wars. And look how those turned out. They were absolutely embarrassing. And a lot of people died for a lie. And this is what George Bush was doing while everybody was dying in the Middle East.
We must stop the terror. I call upon all nations to do everything they can to stop these terrorist killers. Thank you. Now watch this drive.
Dang, I miss George Bush. So coming up next, we're going to dive even deeper, and you're going to hear about how America actually created the Mujahideen and funded Osama bin Laden. Yep, that's right. Coming up next.
Welcome to Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Your quick look at the powerful stories of faith and freedom, inspiring audiences across the nation. Angel Studios presents.
I'm Bo Davidson with this Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Most people know the biblical story of David, the shepherd boy who fought Goliath and became king. Well, Angel Studios has created a new animated film called David that tells the story of Israel's greatest king.
There's a light I've always followed when I'm looking for the way, when I'm searching for the answer, in the moments I'm afraid. There's a whisper in the wind, and a story in the sky, when I'm looking for a lantern to illuminate the night. If you want the secret of freedom and feeling alive, you gotta follow the light. Follow the light.
For those who love great animated classics like The Lion King and Prince of Egypt, David is an awe-inspiring animated musical that depicts David as a spirited boy who fought lions, giants, and even betrayal, depicting how one boy's faith could lead him to be king of Israel. David will be released in theaters just in time for Christmas on December 19th, but your family can get a head start by watching the prequel to the film, Young David, which is streaming exclusively right now on Angel. It's perfect for the entire family and has memorable music. So once you join the Angel Guild, you can start watching Young David right now and prepare the fam for the David film in theaters in December. And by joining the Guild, you'll guarantee 2 free tickets to see it. And it's a great value. Let's be honest, going to the movies isn't all that cheap. But if you're a member of the Angel Guild, not only do you get those 2 free tickets to David, but you'll now have access to every single film or TV series on Angel at your convenience anytime. So just go to angel.com/Rav and join there.
The radical left knows exactly what they're doing. they want to steal the election. We're going to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue, and we're going to the Capitol. They need to take back our country.
Events in Washington have taken a violent and tumultuous turn.
Welcome back to After Hours on Real America's Voice.
Welcome back to After Hours with Alex Stein right here on Real America's Voice. Now tonight, I know I've already given you a lot of information. I feel like a teacher giving you a lecture. I don't want to feel like that. I want to try to have a little fun, but this is a lot of information that I got to fit into an hour-long show, so it's a little more difficult than I planned, but we got a lot to talk about. So what have we already discussed? We've already discussed that George Bush, according to the official story, was briefed about the terror threat of Osama bin Laden. And you're asking yourself, Alex, why are you covering 9/11? How does this connect to the current situation that's happening with Iran? Well, I'll tell you how. Because with our war with Iran, there has been multiple objectives. The first objective was knocking out their nuclear sites. The second objective was to go free all the people that were protesting. And the third objective was to stop Iran from being the world's biggest state sponsor of terrorist regimes across the world. Now, what if I told you that Iran wasn't the biggest state sponsor of terrorism? What if the biggest state sponsor of terrorism to create the world's worst terror attack, even worse than October 7th, which lost 1,300 people, but 9/11 lost over 3,000 people, and that doesn't even include all the firefighters and law enforcement in New York that ended up getting terminal illness from going and trying to rescue people, even though the EPA said that the air was safe, when in reality it was not safe. So we're missing the thousands of people that got affected by the horrible, horrible working conditions that they were forced to deal with. America actually funded Osama bin Laden. That's right. We created the modern day ISIS. Before it was ISIS, before America started a war in the Middle East against them, they were called the Mujahideen. And the Mujahideen was funded by America through our proxies, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan. And we funded them because they were in Afghanistan fighting a war against Russia, similar to how we are funding the Ukrainians in a proxy war against Russia. So that's what America does. If we want to go after one of our enemies, we're able to do it through proxies. And one of these proxies was modern day ISIS, the Mujahideen. And guess who came out of the Mujahideen? Osama bin Laden, the supposed architect of 9/11. And if you don't believe me, just watch this clip.
Withdrew forces from Afghanistan after 20 years of war. But America's involvement there didn't begin after September 11th, 2001. It began decades earlier, after the Soviet Union invaded that country in 1979. The U.S. wanted to do everything it could to counter the Russians during the Cold War. And so at that time, the U.S. worked with Saudi Arabia and Pakistan to arm Afghan Islamist fighters known as the Mujahideen. Nick Schifrin recently talked with one of the key architects and partners in that effort.
In the book, you call bin Laden, quote, ill-informed, naive, a believer in the most simplistic solutions. But you also admit in the book how the expansion of religious influence in Saudi's education system, in the media, played a role in creating people like bin Laden. Do you believe the kingdom has a part to blame?
There was this growth of extremist opinion in Saudi Arabia. So, yes, we definitely, and we ruled the day afterwards when we became even more of the targets of these people inside the kingdom. And that's why the kingdom went through a soul-searching procedure and process, not just by the government, but by the people in general.
Which brings us to today.
So you have right there one of the top Saudi officials admitting that they helped create the Mujahideen, which helped embolden Osama bin Laden. So Osama bin Laden was a creation by the United States government. So we sponsored the terror that Osama bin Laden did to the Russians. And I want to make this very clear. I don't like terrorists, but one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. And with our current situation in Iran, there is a reason that Saudi Arabia is getting pelted. And it's not just because they're supporting us with military advancements currently. It's also because Saudi Arabia feels very threatened by Iran, not as threatened as Israel, but they are in a similar situation. And so Saudi Arabia likes for America to get involved because we are their bulldog. We are their protector, similar to our relationship with Israel. So what do we know so far? America created the world's most dangerous terrorist organization that, according to the official story, was able to knock down 3 buildings in New York City, the most highly populated city in America, as well as attacking the Pentagon with an airplane flown by 19 hijackers that were never even taught to fly on the specific plane that they flew into those buildings. And on top of that, when they were taking flight lessons, they told the flight instructor they weren't really interested in learning how to land. I'm not even kidding. That is incredibly real. That is part of the official story. Now, where are we going with all this? We already have Saudi Arabia and America and Israel fighting a war with Iran. Then when we went to the Middle East, we had Saudi Arabia as a proxy to fund the world's worst terror organization, ISIS. So it seems a little hypocritical for us to go start a war with Iran for being state sponsors of terror when America sponsors terrorists all across the world as well. And the terrorists that we sponsored ended up attacking us. So my question is this. Maybe we sponsored the terrorists because we needed a false flag attack so that we would have a pretext to go and start a never-ending war in the Middle East. Because you and I are playing chess while these people, the puppet masters, are playing checkers. Now, I just want to hear, this is from the New York fire chief, where he basically breaks down the official story and calls out a lot of the anomalies. It's SOT number 7.
9/11 was a false flag. For the first 10 years, I did not think anything other than the official narrative. Then, after being shown a video, a close-up video of building number 7 coming down, and that got me going because it's obvious to me that building 7 was a controlled demolition because the building collapses from the bottom down. The trade centers were unique in that they were designed to withstand the impact of a jet. From what I understand, the outer skeleton of the building, the outer columns was like a fishnet, and you had these inner core columns, which was substantial, thick steel beams to withstand 4 or 5 times what the loads were. The engineers always over-design a building. No steel frame building has ever collapsed before or since 9/11. So that should say something right there. And it said that building 7, it was a progressive collapse, that it was caused by fire. But progressive collapse, unlike the Twin Towers collapse from the top down. That's a progressive collapse. Sure. Floor by floor by floor. But if you look at the videos of building 7 collapsing, it collapses uniformly. It's collapsing from the bottom. The building stays intact all the way to the bottom of the ground, and you could see the sides caving in on it. For a building to collapse uniformly, which the videos show, all the load-bearing columns would have had to have failed simultaneously. Now, fire doesn't act like that. I came across an analogy of the Twin Towers, and if you could visualize cast iron stoves stacked one on top of each other. The stoves up at the top, yes, there's fire, and they've been damaged. But the stoves on the bottom, they haven't been damaged. Okay. So the structure underneath all of that is intact. So it's impossible for a building to collapse near free fall speed and increase
without a controlled demolition.
You're running into the path of most resistance. Something else.
Now, Alex, you're so crazy. Why would they do a controlled demolition of the World Trade Center? Well, a lot of people don't realize that the World Trade Center had irreparable, it's hard to say, excuse me. The World Trade Center, both towers, had irreparable asbestos that was used in 1969, and that was a typical application as fire prevention in all major buildings. But 30 years later, they realized, oh my gosh, asbestos is toxic. So they had over a multi-billion-dollar plan to get rid of the asbestos. But according to Larry Silverstein, who had recently just bought the towers and got them insured twice and was the biggest beneficiary from an office building insurance claim, they couldn't basically afford to repair all the asbestos that was on every single floor. So the building, for lack of a better word, I can't even speak. The building, for lack of a better word, was totaled. That's right. The buildings were basically irreparable. So in a way, they had to go. And that is why the towers fell like that. Now you ask, why does Tower 7, a 47-story building, fall from office fires? What was the significance of that building? Well, that was actually an emergency bunker building that Rudy Giuliani was planning on going to the day of 9/11, but they didn't because it was in too close of proximity to the towers. And then conveniently enough, that building collapsed in on its footprint. But the conspiracy behind that is that that building was also headquarters of the CIA, NSA, and FBI, who all had government offices in that building. So maybe they had to control demolition the building because they wanted to get rid of the evidence of them planning this whole entire operation. Now, I know, Alex, what are you, some Q-tard that'll just believe anything? Well, I'm just telling you this. They lied about weapons of mass destruction, and we went and started a war that costed the American citizens trillions of dollars, and we lost a lot of great Americans. If they'll lie about that, then they would probably also lie about a terror attack that they had prior knowledge of. That's not a conspiracy. We know that to be the case. So you had irreparable buildings with this horrible asbestos. You had a hunger through the Project for a New American Century that said that America wanted to go after the top 7 threats in the Middle East. And you had an organization like the CIA secretly funding these terror groups that they could very easily pin this horrible crime on. Seems like a lot of the dots connect. And then on top of that, they're not able to find a black box from the airplane, but they're able to find one of the terrorist passports. To me, that story sounds incredibly fishy, and I don't buy it whatsoever. And now I'm starting to see some similarities with what is happening with the war in Iran, because they change the objectives constantly in the early 2000s, and it seems like we don't have a clear objective anymore in this Iran war. And I know we want to topple the regime, but we don't even know who's going to take it over. And we don't know if that person is going to be even more adversarial to America and Israel and Saudi Arabia. So I really hoped that we all learned something from the terror attacks on 9/11 and that we wouldn't continue to throw ourselves into wars unnecessarily. But it looks like that is all a lie, and we were all misled. But coming up next, we're going to dive deep into what is happening currently with the war in Iran. You don't want to miss it.
Real America's Voice is growing, and now it's all in one place. Introducing the new and improved RAV app, built for access, community, and choice, not paywalls. Here's the key. RAV is still free to watch. No sign-in, no membership required. Your favorite live streams, breaking coverage, and video on demand are all right there. Free, just like always.
For the War Room Posse, we have to be a force multiplier on this. We have to stick the landing.
In the White House, in the Oval Office, you're crushing it, my friend.
And if you want more, the members section is your backstage pass. Get exclusive behind-the-scenes photos and videos, insider moments from the studio and the field, and early access to new content before it goes public. Members can also unlock special experiences like virtual meet and greets, member-only auctions, and select event access. Plus, commercial-free viewing of certain shows inside the app. It's not just an app, it's a community. Download the RAV app today. Find it in the App Store and Google Play. At Real America's Voice, we know that you want to be a part of something bigger. That's why we've teamed up with AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens, to build a real community of folks who care about faith and our country's future.
There is no force on earth that can stop us from saving our country.
Want to be a part of this movement? It's easy. Just scan the QR code on your screen right now. That's right. Grab your phone and scan the QR code to join the AMAC and Real America's Voice family today. By scanning the QR code, you'll unlock exclusive content, connect with like-minded Americans, and be first in line for events that celebrate our shared values. So don't wait. Scan the QR code. Join us today and become part of a community that stands for faith, family, and freedom.
Real rights, they come from God.
With AMAC and Real America's Voice. Go ahead. Scan the QR code now.
Howdy, Rab fam. It's Warbringer here. Love you all. Rab is the only place to get the truth, and this is the only way we're going to be able to restore our republic. Love you all. See you in the chat.
This is Giselle Chapin. I'm from North Carolina. I'd like to let you know that Rav News is the best news. #1 news. Truth seekers seek to find the truth. It'll set you free.
This is Rashad from Boston, Massachusetts, and I love Real America's Voice. It is the best place for real news and content. Much love.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening on After Hours with Alex Stein, right here on Real America's Voice. Now, we've talked a lot about state-sponsored terror. That's the whole reason that we're fighting Iran. That's the whole reason that people say we're under threat, is that they're going to support terrorist groups like the Houthis to go after Saudi Arabia. They're going to support sleeper cells to attack us here in America, which I do. I believe all that stuff. I mean, that stuff I don't think is a conspiracy. But what if I told you that we're going to continue to hear the state-sponsored narrative when we also sponsor terror? So let's play this clip of Lindsey Graham, the alleged homosexual from South Carolina, invoking Hitler. That's right. Now the Iranian regime, I guess, is doing a Holocaust to people. I don't know. I didn't catch that. I did not know that they were doing that. But according to Lindsey Graham, this is why we're fighting the war. Let's play the clip.
The big questions that I think you're going to hear from a lot of the senators is why now there was no imminent threat. We know that's what Mark Warner is already saying. What will you say to that? And what do you expect the Trump folks will say to that?
I think that's a ridiculous idea that there's no imminent threat from a regime who chants death to America since 1979. There's no imminent threat from a regime that sponsored Hezbollah, who killed 220 Marines and 18 sailors in 1983 in Lebanon. Go tell it to the families of IED victims in Iraq and Afghanistan, sponsored by Iran, that this regime is no threat. You know, in 1939, out of 35, I don't know if Hitler was an imminent threat, but I wish somebody would have dealt with him.
Look at that. Now he's invoking Hitler. But believe it or not, some people think very different than you, Lindsey Graham. So let's play this next clip.
Rather than just stop Israel from illegally attacking Iran, America decided we will attack first and say it's an imminent threat on us. As even senior Democratic Party lawmakers are saying now, Raja, even pro-Israel Democrats are openly saying an imminent threat to Israel is not a threat against the United States. Our country is not the same as Israel. Israel's interests are not America's interests. And I think that's becoming a very fascinating political debate here in the U.S., the shifting terrain on America's relationship with Israel. Of course, Israeli politicians are going to tell you that this is good for them. They've been wanting to take out Iran for decades. Benjamin Netanyahu admitted just yesterday, I'd been yearning, he said, dreaming of doing.
Now, I don't necessarily like Mehdi Hassan, but he makes a good point. And I think it's an obvious point that America is not under threat from Iran, but Israel is. They are our biggest ally. And yes, Iran is a terrorist organization, or they're of support state-sponsored terror. And I'm not saying I like Iran. I want to make that very clear. I'm not pro Iran. But what I am is I'm just a realist. And that I can see why we're doing this. It's because Iran is a threat to Israel. And that's why Israel decided to start this war and dragged us into it. That's what happened, whether anybody else wants to admit it or not. We were dragged into this war, and we have Marco Rubio on the record saying that Iran was going to have to be preemptively attacked because Israel was going to bomb them anyway, and we knew that in retaliation we would get hit. So instead of letting that play out, or maybe even stopping Israel from attacking Iran, we just preemptively struck them. To me, it doesn't seem like we were under threat. It seems like we were protecting Israel's interests. And listen, I get Israel is one of our biggest allies. I'm not anti-Israel, but I'm anti-war. And I don't like foreign countries the size of New Jersey dictating whether or not the American citizens are responsible for a war that we did not vote for. And that over 73% of the population of Americans that were polled are strongly against this war in Iran. So we have politicians that are being funded by AIPAC and multinational corporations through lobbyists that can influence them to start wars that are not in the American people's best interest. And that's what's happening currently with this war in Iran. We just went and dominated in Venezuela and took Maduro. And so Donald Trump has a very strong hubris. He thought, oh, nobody can stop us. We're invincible. But guess what? Iran is a pretty strong opponent. And we're fighting an enemy that is willing to suicide bomb themselves for their cause. They got kamikaze guys going and putting on vests and blowing each other up. That's how dedicated they are. And Iran is not scared. I want to play this clip of an Iranian journalist being asked if he's scared. And listen what he has to say. Shot number 3.
About the question. Let me ask you a personal question. Are you scared? Are you worried? You're sitting in your apartment knowing that the building next door was just blown up. How are you doing?
No. Remember the last time we saw each other in Tehran, we met each other?
Yeah.
You asked me, I told you, we don't care about how strong they threaten us. We don't care really about that. I've seen the Iran-Iraq war. I've seen the last war. We have all experienced war for so many years. We've been experiencing sanctions and coup d'etat efforts and many, like assassination of presidents, of parliament members, of judiciary chiefs. They have been assassinating 23, they have assassinated actually 23,000 Iranians. We are used to it.
Yeah.
We don't care about it.
And we should add,
strong.
And we should add using chemical weapons, by the way, which is a part of the ugly part of the story.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound like a guy that is very scared at all. Sounds like a guy that has been hardened through trials and tribulations of being constantly around horrible situations like this. Now, the next clip I want to play. Now, these are some Israelis in a bunker. And this clip is a little funny. It's shot number 5. But the reason why this clip is funny is because a guy got so scared in a bunker, he crapped his pants, and everybody's running away because he heard bombs going off over his head. But if I'm being honest, this really isn't a shot at him personally, because if there's bombs going off over my head, I would crap my pants too. But I just want you to look at the juxtaposition. The last guy was basically very nonchalant about the threat of terror because he's been there, done that. And then I want you to watch this clip of the people in Israel just hearing a bomb go off above their head, and they're literally crapping their pants. Watch the clip. So you see the people covering up their nose? That's because people are literally crapping their pants because they're so scared. So there is a huge difference when it comes to the people of Israel and the people of Iran. Iran was built for this war. They love this war. Now that they have us involved in it, I hope it doesn't become a war of attrition, because they have 80,000 ballistic missiles that they're willing to shoot at Israel, at Saudi Arabia, at all of our military bases within the region, while we have to spend trillions of dollars to fight back. And who benefits? Nobody. Israel gets a little defense. Saudi Arabia gets a little defense. But in reality, do you think the people of Israel are happy right now that bombs are going off over their heads? No. I don't think that they want to be under attack as well. So for all of the Israel firsters that were so happy when Donald Trump bombed Iran, what you ended up doing was causing the people that you love and support the most to have to live in fear of a terror attack because the likelihood has gone up exponentially. So I'm just very frustrated that we are constantly putting ourselves in situations that don't benefit the citizens of our country and our allies. We should be America first. We should be humanity first. We should be pacifists. And I know that's going to rub people the wrong way, but believe it or not, as human beings, we should be able to come to agreements and make treaties without blowing each other's brains out. Because we make fun of all the gun violence in Chicago. Oh, those are thugs are shooting each other. We make fun. The libs always, get riled up when, we see, we laugh about the transgender school shooters. Like, we kind of laugh about this, but this is a very serious thing. And now we're totally okay with our government going and shooting Iranians for what? Literally, for what? Americans are not under threat. So it's really sad. We make fun of the Chicago thugs, but at the same exact time, our military sponsors thugs like Osama bin Laden, who carries out the worst terror attack in American history and kills American citizens. So we sponsor terror. Does that mean that the whole world should turn against us and start bombing New York City and Dallas and Chicago and Seattle and Portland and LA? No. Would we like that? Would we be happy if Canada started bombing us because we sponsored Al-Qaeda? No, that would not be good. And I think you can take a one-to-one comparison with using the objective of starting this war because Iran, sponsors terror. Well, we're guilty of doing that too. So, are we hypocrites? Yes. Should this war stop? Yes. Will this war stop? I don't know. I think it's going to last multiple weeks, potentially over a year. And I know that sounds crazy, but the Iran war is going to be similar to the Ukraine war, and it's probably going to have more sequels than the Fast and the Furious. We got a lot more to talk about. Coming up next, we're going to dive even deeper into the reason why America is letting in all these mosques and why Sharia law is a serious threat to the people in not only Texas, but all over America. You don't want to miss it.
Real America's Voice is growing, and now it's all in one place. Introducing the new and improved RAV app, built for access, community, and choice, not paywalls. Here's the key. RAV is still free to watch. No sign-in, no membership required. Your favorite live streams, breaking coverage, and video on demand are all right there. Free, just like always.
For the War Room Posse, we have to be a force multiplier on this. We have to stick the landing.
In the White House, in the Oval Office, you're crushing it, my friend.
And if you want more, the members section is your backstage pass. Get exclusive behind-the-scenes photos and videos, insider moments from the studio and the field, and early access to new content before it goes public. Members can also unlock special experiences like virtual meet and greets, member-only auctions, and select event access, plus commercial-free viewing of certain shows inside the app. It's not just an app, it's a community. Download the RAV app today. Find it in the App Store and Google Play. At Real America's Voice, we know that you want to be a part of something bigger. That's why we've teamed up with AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens, to build a real community of folks who care about faith and our country's future.
There is no force on earth that can stop us from saving our country.
Want to be a part of this movement? It's easy. Just scan the QR code on your screen right now. That's right. Grab your phone and scan the QR code to join the AMAC and Real America's Voice family today. By scanning the QR code, you'll unlock exclusive content, connect with like-minded Americans, and be first in line for events that celebrate our shared values. So don't wait. Scan the QR code. Join us today and become part of a community that stands for faith, family, and freedom.
Real rights, they come from God.
With AMAC and Real America's Voice. Go ahead, scan the QR code now.
Howdy, Rab fams. This is Warbringer here. Love you all. Rab is the only place to get the truth, and this is the only way we're going to be able to restore our republic. Love you all. See you in the chat.
This is Giselle Chaffin. I'm from North Carolina. I'd like to let you know that RAV News is the best news. Number one news. Truth seekers seek to find the truth. It'll set you free.
This is Rashad from Boston, Massachusetts, and I love Real America's Voice. It is the best place for real news and content. Much love.
Thank you guys so much for spending the evening right here watching After Hours with Alex Stein, right here on Real America's Voice. Now, we've had a great episode. We've walked down memory lane and talked about a lot of world leaders that we don't have around anymore. We mentioned Hitler, we mentioned George Bush, but we got to mention one of the most influential politicians of all time, Barack Hussein Obama. And the reason why Barack connects to all of this is that Barack ushered in an avenue for all of these mosques and all of these Muslim, I guess you would call it a Muslim invasion, to come to the States. And that's currently what we're facing here in the DFW area. They built over 100 mosques in the past 4 years. And this was done on purpose. And you ask, how is this connected? Well, this is connected because the same Muslim terror groups that we sponsored, the Taliban, we flew them right here back to America. That's right. You guys saw the video where people are hanging off of a B-2 bomber, and we brought a bunch of refugees that don't have the same culture as us, a very different, drastically different culture than us, and just gave them amnesty right here in America. While I'm fighting for big booty Latinas, we have politicians and leftists like Joe Biden that are giving these people green cards. It's ridiculous, but it was done on purpose. Now listen to this old clip of Obama bragging about how America is not a Christian nation any longer. It's now a Muslim one. Watch it.
We are no longer a Christian nation. We do not consider ourselves a Christian nation. The United States has been enriched by Muslim Americans. Since our founding, American Muslims have enriched the United States. Islam has always been a part of America's story. There is a mosque in every state in our union and over 1,200 mosques within our borders. Let there be no doubt, Islam is a part of America.
I mean, I say it all the time on the show, reality is stranger than fiction. Barack Obama, one of the most popular presidents of all time, just boldly telling us the truth, that they're trying to turn, and not even trying, they did turn this country into a safe haven for the same Muslim terrorists that we started a never-ending war in the Middle East against, and the same Muslims that we're currently fighting against in the Iran war. And why is this a big deal? It's a big deal because now that we've started the war with Iran, we have only created more nationalism in their country. We've only created more radical jihadists. And guess what? A lot of them are already here, set up, owning businesses, working and operating just like you and I. But at any moment, they could get upset about something that Donald Trump says or does in the Middle East, and they can bring a gun to the most popular area in Austin, Texas, and just start randomly shooting people. That's right. That is a strong possibility. Now you're like, Alex, what have we learned today? Well, we've learned that the government likes to give us the illusion that we can go to the voting booth and we can vote Republican, we can vote Democrat, and our vote counts. But at the end of the day, even our elected leaders have puppet masters. And those puppet masters are all playing us against each other on purpose, because if we're constantly fighting each other, blacks versus white, women versus men, then we will never actually solve the problems that we're all suffering from. Now, Professor Zhang went totally off script, and he kind of breaks down the reality of the situation and who is actually running the world. Let's play it.
And the last factor that is very important is an eschatological factor, where if you look at the Epstein files, it's clear that we are run by secret societies. It's clear that the world is run by these individuals who have a lot of power. We don't know who they are, but they control the military. They control the national security apparatus. And these people, there are different names for these people. You can call them the Illuminati. And the Illuminati are composed of three major groups, okay? You have the Jesuits, who control the Vatican. You have the Sephardim Frankists, which control the modern state of Israel today. And you have the Freemasons, which control the national security apparatus of the United States. And they believe that Israel, this war in the Middle East, is key to the end times in creating heaven on earth. So it's almost like a script that they're following, even though it doesn't make any geopolitical sense. Okay, so I would say that these three are the best reasons why this is happening.
Wow. Nothing makes sense. But the puppet masters, it makes a lot of sense to them, and that's why they did this attack during the holiday of Purim. I think that is awfully convenient. During the blood moon at 3:33 a.m., when the moon was the most bloody it's ever been. So this is all being done because it is a controlled demolition of our country. That's why they brought in all of these illegal immigrants. It's not just to take away your voting power. It's to create the new world order. They want America to create a world where we're basically all one gender or all one religion or all one race. Because if that is the case, then we're easier to control. So the people, the puppet masters, whether you want to call them the Illuminati or whether you want to call them the Vatican or you want to call them Israel, who doesn't matter what you want to call them. There are multiple people that are calling the shots, and they're all basically fighting with each other. And that's why they've set up this country to fail. So I know we talked about a lot of conspiracies, and I know to you this might not make sense, but there are a lot of people that are even way smarter than me that can dissect this and give you the information that you're craving if I've even piqued your interest. So do not take anything that I said and believe me. I want you guys to do your own research. Just like how they said during COVID, don't do your own research. Well, I'm the opposite of that. I encourage all of my viewers to go and do their own research. And I hope that I've even piqued your interest just a little bit at looking at the official narrative. And if you can see similar correlations from what happened in the early 2000s to what's happening in Iran, I applaud you, because I think it's very obvious that we're getting in another quagmire and the American citizens do not benefit from it. And they sell us the lie that we're all going to be attacked by terrorists. When in reality, that is a high possibility, but we caused that by rattling their cage. And that's what I don't like. I want to have a country where we don't rattle people's cages. We don't just overthrow governments for the CIA. I want to be able to come to an agreement. I want to be able to negotiate our problems without killing each other. Now, speaking of people that didn't get to negotiate their problems, I want to show this clip of El Mencho. He's one of the top cartel leaders, and this is him in his gold casket right before he got buried. Now, the saddest part about El Mencho is that they were able to find him because of his OnlyFans girlfriend. She was a big booty Latina, hot. I'm talking about hot. They followed her to his house, and that's where they were able to take him out. So rest in peace, El Mencho. The fentanyl prices are a little higher, but luckily it's only going up from like $5 to $6, so we can still party if we got a little money in the bank. Shorty, what you drank? Okay, we've talked about so much Debbie Downer type stuff. I feel bad. I probably got some person pulling their hair out tonight. And trust me, I pull my hair out every single night because the world is so crazy. But I got to go back to the burger wars. That is the most pressing thing in my life, even more important than 9/11 truth, even more important than the war in Iran. And this is the McDonald's CEO just boldly lying in his Instagram live video when they ask him how often he eats at McDonald's, when we saw the viral video where he takes the smallest bite of a hamburger possible, so small, he didn't even really get any of the burger in it. He just got the bun, a little lettuce, and maybe a rat-sized bite of the meat. because he knows that their food is probably toxic, and this guy's not trying to gain weight. I mean, he's skinny. We need like a fat 300-pound black man as the CEO, not this white twink. And listen to him just lying right to our faces.
Question recently came in on my Instagram. How often do I eat at McDonald's? I would tell you it's a lot, probably 3 or 4 times a week. Sometimes it might be a breakfast, sometimes it might be a lunch. But hey, one of the perks of the job, you get to eat at McDonald's a lot.
Well, guys, I'm announcing tomorrow we're going to have a burger war, but it'll be burgers versus Arby's. That's right. We like the meats here at After Hours with Alex Stein. We love the meats. No Diddy, pause. You know what I mean. So in these advancing burger wars, we need to pay attention to those and not about the Iran wars. So I really don't want you focused on Benjamin Netanyahu. I don't want you focused on CNN telling us whether we should or shouldn't go fight against Iran. You need to worry about the CEO of Burger King challenging the CEO of McDonald's to a burger mog-off. That's really what is most important in this country. All right, folks, thank you guys so much for watching. And if you guys want to support the show, make sure to go on Amazon.com and order a little bit of that Soldier Fuel. It'll keep you adrenalized. It'll keep you pumped up. It'll keep you up. And if you're eating a bunch of McDonald's, it'll help. You know what I mean? Because at McDonald's will make you a little sleepy. So don't be like the CEO of McDonald's and be scared to eat a big arch. Have a big arch and drink a 6-pack of Soldier Fuel and stay up all night watching After Hours with Alex Stein on repeat. That is a direct order, call to action. Do not change the channel. Watch this show over and over and over again. Thank you, guys. See you tomorrow night.
Real America's Voice is growing, and now it's all in one place. Introducing the new and improved RAV app, built for access, community, and choice, not paywalls. Here's the key. RAV is still free to watch. No sign-in, no membership required. Your favorite live streams, breaking coverage, and video on demand are all right there. Free, just like always.
For the War Room Posse, we have to be a force multiplier on this. We have to stick the landing.
In the White House, in the Oval Office, you're crushing it, my friend.
And if you want more, the members section is your backstage pass. Get exclusive behind-the-scenes photos and videos, insider moments from the studio and the field, and early access to new content before it goes public. Members can also unlock special experiences like virtual meet and greets, member-only auctions, and select event access, plus commercial-free viewing of certain shows inside the app. It's not just an app, it's a community. Download the RAV app today. Find it in the App Store and Google Play. At Real America's Voice, we know that you want to be a part of something bigger. That's why we've teamed up with AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens, to build a real community of folks who care about faith and our country's future.
There is no force on earth that can stop us from saving our country.
Want to be a part of this movement? It's easy. Just scan the QR code on your screen right now. That's right. Grab your phone and scan the QR code to join the AMAC and Real America's Voice family today. By scanning the QR code, you'll unlock exclusive content, connect with like-minded Americans, and be first in line for events that celebrate our shared values. So don't wait. Scan the QR code. Join us today and become part of a community that stands for faith, family, and freedom.
Real rights, they come from God.
With AMAC and Real America's Voice. Go ahead. Scan the QR code now.
Howdy, Rat fams. This is Warbringer here. Love